Hey guys, welcome back to a new video. I'm Stephanie Fisher. I'm a licensed counselor here in the state of Michigan, and I am owner and operator of In Progress Counseling. There's this very cool stage progression that happens when there's this therapeutic alliance that is developed and intending to give a client voice in their story. And so often someone might come in and their agitation or their frustration, it's very underdeveloped, or maybe they're not even yet understanding what is it that they want, what is it that they're asking, what are their limits, what are the injustices that they're experiencing, where are they being discredited, where are they being suppressed or repressed. And so what we do is we slow everything down to put together that story, because self-awareness is this really important foundation for how to go to stage 2, which is communication. But when I start to communicate and I don't have a clear sense of what I want, it can become very incoherent. It can become quite reactive. If someone pushes back against us, it can become, volatile between the two people or between myself and the group. This interpersonal dynamic isn't quite sturdy. So what we do is we go into the story and we develop self-awareness, and we develop, okay, what is it that you're asking for? Okay, what would that look like? Okay, what is the pushback you might receive? Okay, how do we want to approach that? In what way would you like to communicate this to others? Okay, who do you want to start communicating that to? We slow the whole thing down so the client has this sturdy foundation from which they are operating, where they can own their first person experience. I, Steph, have this desire, this limit, this preference, this felt sense of injustice. And then we can decide, who am I approaching and what am I requesting? And that's that communication piece. When there's a coherent self-understanding, and I can use first-person language, I can use I-centered requests, or this is what I would like to see. What I'm doing is I'm disallowing kind of the distancing of global language, or trying to advocate for other people. And I'm putting together the story of what it is that I'm requesting and what I would like. That's a very important place to be operating from, because I am the only one that can really speak from my first person, fully metabolized, fully articulated point of view. When I can do that and the foundation is sturdy and I practice the communication, what happens then is the more I am in that particular progression stage where I'm communicating more effectively, I can then start to advocate for myself from a place of centeredness, from a place of adequate or appropriate self-expression, owning that these are the things that I would like to see, owning why I would like to see them. And then I can really dial into who's willing to honor that my consent or my person matters to in the relationship, and who's not willing to make space for that. And when someone is able to go through the communication and then they start to advocate for themselves, a lot of times their community starts to shift around who is going to join them in that space and who is going to disallow them from becoming someone with a voice. So it's this progression stage, but we start with that first person I. What is it that I'm asking for? What do I perceive that I need? Is it an appropriate request? Who am I going to with that request? What is my option if they don't meet me in that space? How do I want to approach that? How do I want to continue to make requests and invite? There's so many pieces that go into that kind of conversation around boundaries. Often I will hear people talk through that idea of, I have this boundary, they're not listening, great, boundaries don't work. And it's like, well, there's a whole structuring that happens when I'm making decisions about pivots and changes that I would like to see relationally. And we start with that first person coherence. What is going on in me? What am I requesting? And how do I go about doing that potentially successfully in a way that makes sense? And if someone's not interested in that, what do I do? It's a very structured process, but that progression stage is so cool, because over time, I see someone advocating for themselves very well, very successfully in their relationships, or successfully moving away from relationships where there's not space for them. But it's not based on knee-jerk responses. It's based on this well-developed foundation of, this is where I'm at. I have a voice too. I'd like to contribute to our relationship with that voice. And if you're not willing to let me have a voice, then I'm going to rethink how much is this going to be a viable relationship for me. So progression stages is very cool, where I can point to a client and say, remember when you weren't even sure what you're asking for? Look at you go. You're clear, you're coherent, you're invitational, you're firm, you're insistent. Those are really well thought through invitations that you're giving other people. And I'm so proud of people who do that hard work.